let me ask you about a specific song, because it would be your first huge hit, which was Chariot, and it came out, 2003, but presumably you're writing it a few years before that. How did a song like that come to you? I mean, Chariot, oh, chariot, your golden waves are walking down upon the space. It's about a chariot, but of course it's a metaphor for something different. I think it's a song about you're just being overwhelmed by being in New York City and wanting to be brought home on a chariot, right?
Yeah. Well, it's interesting. I mean, you're really not far off. And interestingly enough, I was having a hard time in New York. It was 1998, and things weren't going my way. I do remember being depressed on my 21st birthday because nothing was happening in my life. Things weren't. I had turned down the record contract. There wasn't another one on the horizon, and I was broke as could be. My brother and I were living in the same room, sharing a room in our 20s, in Hell's Kitchen. Living across the street from a school that was basically just prepping the kids to go to prison, and it was a tough time, and there was no. I mean, you didn't have any drinking money. You know what I mean? You had it was a slice of pizza and a cup of coffee. That was your spending money.
Yeah,
that's it. That's New York living.
Yeah.
And I was very overwhelmed. I was bummed, and I called I was talking to my parents on the phone on a landline. Remember those?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. It was a long distance call at that point from New York City to upstate. That was long distance. I can't believe that. Anyway, so I'm talking to my mom on the phone. She says, it sounds like you should come home for a couple of days, right? I said, you think so? She's like, you should come home, just come home, get normal for a couple of days. You could use the woods and just come home, get normal for a couple of days. I said, all right, I will. So I did. I went up. I'm sure I took the bus. It's like a Tuesday night. And she said, let's go to church. I said, all right. So we go to church, and it's a church I'd been to before, probably 50 times as a kid. We went to church a lot. We went to church every Sunday. We were churchaholics. We went to church, every Sunday, and we went to church twice a week when God didn't listen. We go to church Sunday, and if nothing changed by Monday, we go back Tuesday.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so we go a Tuesday night to a church I've been to many times, and it's really in the back woods, in one of the hamlets of my town, and preacher gets up and he goes, we have a guest speaker, and this fella comes in from wherever, and this big burly dude. He looked like the caricature of the Brawny commercials, the paper bear towel, of a guy,
the paper towel commercials.
That's right.
Yep,
It's got like a lumberjack. He looked like pull your arms right off of you.
Yep.
So this guy gets up and he starts talking, and I'm standing there, and we're watching him, and I'm standing next to my mom. It's a Tuesday night, and he starts in on my story of Samson, which is my favorite Bible story as a kid, and every young boy wants to be strong, right?
Yeah.
So yeah. So I was like, yeah, cool. He's already talking about like one of my childhood heroes right here. It's my dude. So he's talking about how Samson, at the end of his life, he's chained up to these pillars, and he's asking for God to remember him for the good he had done for when he was a better man, and to give him strength one last time, so he could pull down the pillars, right?
Yeah,
or push them down, or however the story went. So this guy's really affecting me, and he said the moral of the story is, it's never too late to get back to God. It's never too late to get back to God, he says. And he looks right at me. The place is full. It's never too late to get back to God. is there anybody here tonight who'd like to come up here, who wants to get back to God? And man, it hit me really hard. And I was like, I do. And I walked up and he prayed over me on stage, you know. And it was really heavy. I'd never done anything like that before. You know, I used to look at that and be like, that's silly. But he did. He prayed over me. I was like, I was heavily affected. And I went home and I wrote Chariot. And I used there's a couple Bible stories in there. So the concept of it not being too late to get back to God inspired me to use an element of that to give strength to remember you one more time. But I wanted to use the imagery of a chariot of fire from the story of Elijah, because Elijah went to heaven on a chariot of fire, alive. And so that really was the inspiration for the song, about getting back to your innocence, and to the better version of yourself, right? The whole second verse actually is about you being a child. It's about you being, you know, remember seeing moon's rebirth, rains made mirrors of the earth. Remember when you were so small as a kid, you could walk up to a puddle and you looked at it and it really looked like a mirror to you. The sun was yellow energy. That's you as a child, like, you know, with crayons making a little picture, right? Yeah. So all of that stuff was really, you know, taken as inspiration and then used as a means to tap into something personal for me.
So writing that song, because it's a beautiful song and it would become a huge hit, but not for a few more years. I mean, were you playing that song? I mean, were you performing it in small little bars in New York?
I was playing it without a bridge. I didn't write the bridge until I was in the studio.
Right.
So I played it for a few years.
How long do you remember it taking you to write those lyrics and then compose the music?
That came pretty quickly. But the bridge didn't come for years. You know, sometimes it's like that. You know, 3.5 years later or whatever it is, we're 3.5 years, 4 years, where you're like, man, why can't I come up with this bridge? This is so weird, you know? I just felt like there was nothing good enough. You know, I didn't just want to throw anything at it because I felt like the rest of the song was really important and really special and it meant a lot to me. But the problem was I felt like I'd said everything.
Yeah.
And I didn't know what else to say. And so I finally decided the bridge would be a summation, you know, a way to put a bow on it, rather than saying new things.
How were you working on that music at the time? By yourself, in your room, in your little studio apartment with that you shared with your brother, just like at a table, like writing down by hand?
Initially, the song began on the piano I grew up on. In the house I grew up in.
Yeah.
It was not a good instrument, you know, like some of the keys didn't work, but it was just good enough to learn on, you know. But there's something about it, you know, it's the one you grew up on.
Yeah.
And I think it was important to play the one you grew up on to write that particular song, because you're trying to get back to, you know, what your innocence was, right?
If you like this clip and you want to watch another one, click right here. And if you want to watch the entire episode, click right here.